Hello, my name is Rob Smith, and I've got Davida here with me from Lisio, and I'm super excited to bring to you, from the Grove, Russ Cantrell. I'm very excited about what he's going to be talking about today because for really two reasons. One, this is something that I think that accountants can really help their clients with. I think this is something that's becoming a bigger problem every single day. This is the value add that can change lives and make you look like a superhero. And then on a personal note, as we'll discuss a little bit later, this hit me personally. My son has a problem with this issue because somebody has filed on his social security number for the last couple of years on a tax return. So I need to figure out this, not for my clients, but I also need to figure out for myself. So basically, what I'd like everybody to do, please ask any questions. We will pass along those questions to Russ and make sure he basically gets all our questions answered. And we've got a bunch of other stuff that's going to be exciting that's going to come up after this webinar that will really help you take this and what you're learning today and actually be proactively applying it inside your firm. But enough of my chitty chat. I want to basically introduce Russ. Russ, please introduce yourself. Tell us everybody here exactly who you are, and then go ahead and get started.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much. So I'm Russ Cantrell with IDIQ. I'm the Vice President of Sales for the tax group, and I appreciate Rob and David inviting me here, also Chris Farrell. So my company, IDIQ, we deal with identity theft protection and credit monitoring. So Rob and I had a chance to meet last summer, and we had a chance to chat and talk about what we're both trying to accomplish. We felt like there was a good mix. So he was graciously able to invite me to this conversation and this webinar and to share this information. Hopefully it's instructive. So while I represent IDIQ, I want to start off by first, perhaps kind of laying a bit of a foundation here, is the idea that whether IDIQ is of any benefit or value to you or not, certainly identity theft protection and protecting yourself and your clients is a big issue. So if not us, somebody else, that's fine. But hopefully this information will provide the additional information that you may need to ensure this very important service here. So with that, I don't want to spend too much more time about me, but I'll kind of circle back a little bit with Identity IQ and the company IDIQ at the end. But for right now, we'll start the presentation. So I'll share my screen. Okay.
I'm going to basically step away, and then we'll talk a little bit after your slides. Okay, Russ?
Wonderful. Okay. Can everybody see that? Empowering your clients and help protect them identity theft.
Yep, I think we can see it.
Okay. Wonderful. So the idea is, first of all, how do identity thieves steal your information? I mean, we all kind of hear that term, but what does it really mean? So you kind of see some of the bullets here. I don't want to spend the whole time going over each individual bullet, but you'll notice that it's pretty broad. It could be anything from diving in a dumpster and getting information to looking over somebody's shoulder, hacking into an account. There's just so many ways it's being done. And so the first question is, well, okay, I hear about this all the time, but what does it mean? What does it do to impact me? And so the next question is what do they do with the information? And so let me just take a quick bit. So Rob and David, I'm sure you're looking at the comments. So I can't hear or see if someone's has a question.
Yeah, no, Russ,
So
if a comment comes in, if a comment comes in, I'll stop you and let you know. Okay.
Okay, terrific. So these are some examples of, what they can do with it. So, it's pretty straightforward. Credit cards, accounts, fraudulent purchases, stolen identity, identify yourself if you're being pulled over and you're arrested. One of the things that we're seeing that's probably the most common or growing in the fastest is title theft. This is a huge issue. I've got a colleague in Florida, and they talk about people who are going down to Florida, they're retiring, and the homes are paid off, right? So you don't really look at your title. You don't really check things out like that. So people have gone in, taken their identity, and changed the title to their name, Then after a couple of years, because no one's done anything with them, the person who has then stolen the identity goes in and evicts the lawful and rightful owner of the business or of the home. But because that person hasn't kept track of it, and the fraudulent individual has owned and controlled that information now for multiple years, evictions are becoming a major issue down in Florida, as just, again, another example. So these are just some of them. The idea is, okay, if they get it, what can they do with it? And it's very broad. The next question.
Russ, that title, I never would have thought of somebody coming in and taking the title out from underneath you. That is kind of scary. Wow, that's a new one. I didn't even think of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so the next two slides are going to kind of show you just how invasive and how huge this problem is, which is why the topic is so critical to be talking to our clients, our business partners, and so forth. So the next screen is, some of these may be familiar to you. I'm sure within the audience, all of us have one, or if not more. These are just some of the largest ones that have happened recently. And you'll see just the sheer volume of accounts that have been impacted. It's crazy that there's so much information being stolen. So that's been taken. We know how people can now take it, what they can do with it. Let's see what the impact really is across the nation. All right. So this was shocking to me when I came to IDIQ. I didn't realize how pervasive this information or this loss could be. So when we think of the internet, everything that's on there, from social media to downloading pictures to, Netflix, Amazon, shopping, whatever the case may be, of an entire internet, 99% of the full internet is actually the dark web. And as the dark web, that's where all the nefarious activities taking place. That's where people are stealing and storing information. That's where the so-called bad guys can go in and buy that. And so what we tell people all the time is our data has already been stolen. That's a fact. It's been taken in some form or fashion. The question really is going to be, what are we going to do about it after the fact? Or what are we going to do to protect ourselves to make sure we're not impacted with all these different things? So you can see the bullet points, 47%. So almost half the entire US population had some impact of data theft in 2020. 80%, which is really kind of scary, 80% of the population, I'm sorry about that, 80% of the population have nothing in place to protect them or give them some kind of alert or tell them that someone's going in trying to do something with their identity. On average, 200 hours are spent trying to recover this. And we'll talk about this in the next slide in terms of kind of some real life examples, Rob's son being one of them. But on average, it takes about 200 hours from start to finish to really clean up and fix that mess. More than 15 billion with a B. Americans have lost or had access to some kind of theft with their information. 15 billion personal records exposed to breaches, and it's costing us across the world globally about $1.5 trillion. It's really amazing just the scope and the depth of how this is impacting all of us. And as I've had conversation with Rob, which brought us into this webinar, there's also statistics that show that for the vast majority of the population, the only real conversation someone's going to have dealing with their finances or their, let's say the monetary concerns is dealing with their tax preparation expert, be the accountant or the tax preparer. And so the ability to kind of have this conversation to make sure they're protected, that things aren't going to happen that's going to cause them additional information, in addition to a growing area that you're all familiar with, which is tax identity fraud, then this is what we're trying to say as this is the issue. So kind of some real life examples. So Rob, this is where when you and I were speaking back and forth and we first talked in the summer, you explained or shared with me what happened to your son. And then after you're done, I'll talk about my wife and my son.
Yeah, no, basically a couple things happened. Once we, when he went to basically file his tax return, because he didn't do it right away, he kind of sat on it. And when we finally got around to doing it, somebody had already filed on his return and it got rejected. So that was basically an issue. And then I found out he hadn't filed in the previous year, and we were doing his FAFSA. And I'm like, oh, I guess that didn't fall far from the tree, maybe it fell too little far from the tree. But yeah, he didn't. It happened in the previous year also. So what I then did was I actually signed up to basically, because I'm worried about his credit now. So I actually went in to sign up. I hit a little bit of a roadblock because he doesn't even have any credit. It's like he is not actually listed in any of the three service bureaus. So I thought I'd actually been giving him credit by putting, the utilities in his name. And then I went out to find out that utilities don't report to credit unions unless they're actually late. So if you're paying he's been paying his bill on time, been doing great. So I thought, okay, he's got some activity, but no, none of that was being reported. So, so I'm, even though I'm a CPA and I think I know what I'm doing, this whole idea of credit reports and your credit is really confusing. I don't know what works, what doesn't work. You haven't really paid attention to it because my credit's been okay. So I haven't really paid a lot of attention to this, but this is an area where, from this webinar and from the course that we're working together on building, I'm very excited about needing to know, how do I, first of all, completely make sure that everything is taken care of with him on his end. So nothing's actually happened to him. But then also, now that he's now 21 with no credit, and pretty soon he's going to start renting and buying a car and insurance, and all these things are going to affect him. So what can I do, to start helping him do that? And what are the right things to do? Some people are, you keep hearing all these things like, what's this and what's that? Should I close that account from JCPenney's that's been open for 30 years, or should I leave it open? What are the things that we should be doing? And those questions that I have. And those are the questions that I know my clients are going to have, because if I'm confused with it, I know my clients are going to be confused with it. But yeah, and I'm a little bit nervous about it. I'm a little bit scared about it. So, and I know finances. So I'm thinking, for people who don't even know what a debit or credit is, or can't even explain withholding, how are most people, unless they've actually dealt with it or had a problem where they had to research this, because I don't know about you, but I never learned any of this in school. So, yeah.
Well, and add to that, it is growing, and the sophistication of how individuals are accessing it. I mean, there's even ways we can get into a lot of detail. We could take each one of these slides and spend an hour on them. I mean, there's ways to steal your information through connecting to your Bluetooth devices. It's that nefarious. Situation where they take over your email accounts and they can set up phishing and scamming things through your name. I mean, there's a whole long list of, okay, here's a list of what we described as to ways that information is being taken or stolen or used in the wrong fashion. But what that impact is and how they actually go about doing it, those are all future conversations. But the idea being is really what we need to understand coming out of this conversation is the information for us individually, it's already been taken, it's already out there. Are we in a position to be notified if someone's trying to do something with it? Yeah. So using that now, switching, so obviously that happened to Rob's son. In my case, my son, his information, he had a tax refund fraud for him. It was about 8-9 years ago. And so as soon as tax season opens up, the 15th to 20th, somewhere in that time frame, the bad guys get the information, they submit a tax return, they get the refund, they can do all kinds of things in terms of identifying, how many credits and exemptions and things like that, where they can, really get a lot of money for that. My son rolls around end of March because he's not in a big hurry, right? Just kind of put things off. He's in college. And then he was told, well, sorry, your taxes have already been filed. Well, so it's now 8-9 years later, and it still hasn't been completely remedied for him. So he has a PIN with the IRS, and that's been taken care of. But that was just one example in our family. Also, our family was involved in a data breach through our insurance carrier, Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And there's been several times people have tried to open up accounts in my wife's name, and she hasn't spent the full 200 hours on this thing yet. But she's had to have individual conversations with the 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. I bet she's put probably 50 or 60 hours into this. So far, we have not taken a financial hit, but it's taken a lot of time to make sure the information out there to understand, okay, there's a problem. So when the alert comes that, hey, someone is trying to do something with you, Are you going to take action? So we were fortunate, the fact that we were informed before somebody did something, but even with all the best protections, if something happens, then that takes you to the next step. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. What do we do with it? How do we protect ourselves? But the first step is really understand, is this a problem and how severe and how impactful it is? And hopefully we've covered that. I don't know if anybody's asking any questions. So before we kind of get on the next topic, which is really what you should look for and why this is important in terms of maybe an offering or ways to help grow your business, anything come in then, Rob or David?
Yeah, no, I think pretty much, I think most everybody here at the webinar is here because they realize that this is a problem, and they're probably wondering, what in the heck can we do about it? What can we do to, what can we basically, how can we educate and protect our clients, and what should we be doing, because we're kind of the, really, and a lot of times the only person that our clients speak to that actually have any financial advice, that give you any financial advice. And to me, I'd consider this financial advice.
Excellent. Okay, well then. So when we talk about overall protection, so I'm talking generically in terms of things that we should all be aware of. And so obviously there's a lot of bullet points here. I'm not going to go through each one of those, but I try to break it out into what you should know, what you should watch for, and how you can plan or how you can resolve or restore it. So certainly, when we talk about the level identification, there are 3 credit bureaus. We've all heard of them before. It's TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. It's the idea that when we do a transaction or trying to open up an account, those are the 3 credit bureaus that different businesses are going to look for. So for example, if I go down and get a loan from my bank, they may not necessarily report to all 3 of them, but if you report to one, it may be shared with the other. I go and get a car loan, I open up a credit card. Different businesses have different bureaus that they use. So when we talk about the 3 different bureaus, we want to make sure we've got complete coverage. Just like if there's a breach on one bureau, let's say it happens with TransUnion, and it reports to that one, and if we're not impacting the other 2, we may not be able to be notified in time that something's happened. That's why it's important to include all 3 credit bureaus. So things you'd have is the ability to monitor credit and criminal information, dark web monitoring, checking account reporting, change of address. Those are all different indicators that something's happened. If you get a notification of a change of address, or all of a sudden a credit card arrives that you didn't order, those are, again, some other indicators that something has happened. You better pay attention. Now, in the case of identity theft protection tool, then if somebody's breaching it as opposed to coming in the mail, that's kind of after the fact if you're not protecting yourself. If you have some tool in place, you should be notified immediately. Let me give you a real world example from me here just a few months ago. So obviously, our personal identity can be used for a number of things, from getting a loan to opening up a credit card. Sometimes if you're getting a new job or looking to apply for a position, they'll do a credit check. So my personal example happened a few months ago when I was at the airport. I travel frequently. And while I was there, because of the credit card I have, I was able to get Clear, which is kind of extension of TSA PreCheck. They said I could get that for a year at no cost. So I said, sure, I'll be happy to sign up and give it a shot. So I filled the information. It literally took me 2 or 3 minutes to get set up as a person identified in their system. And so I went through security. I thought it was pretty sweet, pretty fast. It saved me a lot of time. I was not more than probably 20 or 30 yards outside of TSA security, where I got an alert on my phone telling me that my personal account, my personal identity had been accessed. Now, in this case, it was Clear, and I had authorized it. It was what I wanted them to do. They were verifying that I really was who I said I was. And so this alert notified me that someone had done a query on my personal identity. So I looked at it and go, sweet, not a problem. I knew about it. I went off my day. But the fact is, it was that quick, that immediate in terms of telling me something had been done with my personal data. And I thought that was pretty important. So those are the kind of things we look for in terms of making sure you're protected. Okay. In terms of the watch side, these are some of the areas that are being monitored, being looked at to make sure that we're scouring, to make sure that if there's activity, movement, changes, that we're going to catch that. Things from file sharing, social security monitoring, application for loans or credit cards, things like that. Score monitoring, if your score changes quite a bit. So when we talk about identity theft protection, the flip side or the back side of that coin is then monitoring and tracking your credit score. And we'll spend a little bit of time on that. That's a key component as well, so that if something dramatically changes, then that is another indicator that somebody may be playing with your identity. And then we have what's called the Scorecaster IQ, which is really the ability to do some simulations and work on credit monitoring. We won't spend a lot of time on that today, but in a conversation that Rob and I had in preparation for this meeting, some of the things we talked about are what are some areas that accountants and tax owners are looking for to be able to provide services year round and keep everybody busy, because obviously tax season is very, overwhelming. Everyone's really busy. And then we get into some of the summer months and the fall, other than extensions. Sometimes we're not as busy as we'd like to be. This could be one of those additional services to help boost or build the credit score for some of your clients. If that's a part of the business that might make sense, it also keeps your staff engaged year round and create a kind of ongoing residual revenue for you. And then plan.
Russ, if I can just interrupt real quick on that one right there, I just want to let everybody know that we are working with Russ on building a course that's really going to walk you guys through, because understanding, some of the chapters that we've got planned in there right now are a deep dive into credit reports, understanding the credit report, understanding what they mean, how they're affected, stuff like that. Symptoms, remedies, preventative options. What can people do to, either remedy or prevent? And we're going to be included, because putting all this stuff into, into a 60-minute webinar, it'd be really tough. And that's why what we're going to do is we're going to invite you guys into the Grove, where we have other courses, but we're going to be rolling out this, coming soon, this identity theft course that's going to slowly, each chapter is going to kind of hit one of these major areas and kind of walk you guys through this. So that way, what the goal here is, during this tax season, be aware of this, bring this up with your clients, find out who's interested in this idea. And then to kind of piggyback off what Russ just said there, because what you just said, Russ, is really important. I want to make sure everybody really hears this here, is that if you just ask the question, identity theft, see the reaction. If it's something that you want to swing back around on, take a note, put them into a tickler, put them into a list. And then in the middle of June, when your administrative assistant is looking for work, have them take the course. They can reach out and help your clients with this. Find out some of the free stuff, find out some of the paid stuff. But this is the area where I think we can really be proactive instead of reactive, and fill, some space for some staff that that may be underutilized, and turn an overhead cost into a revenue producing. And if you can do that, then it's a win-win. And then another chapter that we're talking about is how to set your children up for success. And then a couple chapters on how you could possibly integrate with IDIQ. But Russ, I'm sorry for interrupting there, but
no,
what
the
you
great
just said
points.
was, I wanted to stress what you just said there, because to me, filling in the slow months, filling in staff that's looking for work, and being able to generate revenue out of admin overhead, that if you can do those three things, that's three winners right there.
Terrific. Yes, thank you. And I will, we're kind of jumping the gun here a little bit, but understand, if this makes sense, and please understand, there's no pressure obligation whatsoever, but if this makes sense for you to be able to offer this to your clients, and for us to help you set these things up, work with us, work with Licio and the Grove, there's no cost to you. So there would certainly be a cost if somebody wants to enroll in some kind of program for themselves individually. But for you as a business providing these services to your client, we'll talk about that, like I said, a little bit later, as to what that could do to impact kind of the bottom line. But just to make sure I'm not losing anybody on that idea, or trying to feel like I'm selling you something that's not of value to, that is something that can be done. So there's no cost to you, but it could generate some revenue for your bottom line. Okay. So the last column talks about, so something happens. Now I want to be more proactive in managing my identity protection, to manage my credit score. There's certainly tools for being able to do restoration. Something happened. Now what do I do? What are the steps? How do I go about fixing it taking care of it, keeping it from happening again. We've got some things we call score stimulator, which means maybe you're dealing with somebody whose credit isn't quite where it needs to be, or I need to build credit. Rob mentioned his son. That we've had a couple of conversations about some things that Rob and his son could do to start building that credit. That's some areas, and you can run some stimulators as to what that would do. We know that by having a better credit score, that allows you to have better interest rates, be it for a car loan, be it credit card, things like that. That could be a very large or a very big impact on someone's life. There's also the insurance coverage. So we partner with AIG. So if there is an impact, if you are breached, if things happen outside of your control and you've done the things you need to be taken that should have been done, there's insurance up to $1 million to remedy the solution. We've got lost wallet assistance. And then there's different points. Those things are really more into the weeds relative to some of the services you provide. So I won't go into that. But the idea is, it's one thing to provide the solution. It's something else to say, all right, something's happened. What do we do to fix it? Those are some of the tools. So even though you provide that for your clients, we would not expect you to be the ones to fix it or help to recover or give them aid going forward. Just a service you could offer. So let's kind of shift it a little bit in terms of what are some of the benefits to you as a business or a member of Liscio on the Grove. Let's say that this conversation makes sense. You're thinking, all right, what if I offer this to my clients? What does that mean? So some of the bullet points here is, again, other services beyond just tax. We know it's quite common to offer things like payroll and bookkeeping, sometimes insurance, sometimes financial planning. This is just something that kind of meshes in with all of that to give you a more comprehensive offering to ensure that your clients know that you are there to protect them. There's all kinds of statistics that also show that the more services you provide, the higher the retention, the higher the relationship impact you're going to have with your clients take place. Allows you to differentiate with your competitors. On an earlier slide, if you recall, we identified the statistic was that 80% of the US population currently do not have something in place to protect them from identity theft. Some areas of revenue sharing. So one of the things we do, and this comes through our partnership with Liscio, if this makes sense, this is something you'd like to offer, what we do is we offer 20% off of our MSRP pricing. So if you were just to go to the website identityiq.com or idiq.com, you'd see a listing of prices for the various programs. Through Liscio and through this relationship, we offer a 20% discount off of those prices. And then if you provide those to your clients, then whatever the gross revenue is going to be, then you would get 20% gross revenues of what the gross revenues are. So for example, the plans at MSRP run from about $7 to $30. So with a 20% discount, that would mean it's about a $24 a month offering. We do have annualized programs, and some people have done that. So think of a $24 a month program, and I'll show you what those different things look like in just a moment. Then think of $4.80 per client per month, and that is ongoing. That's residual income. There's no minimums, there's no maximums. Again, that is just paid to you every single month for your clients as they need it, and we take care of all the administrative overhead and the alerts and all those services. You're just basically acting as a partner with us to be able to offer those services for those who need it on their behalf. So 100% US-based customer support and service. We would also do what we call a co-branded landing page for you. So I'm going to move a slide over here to give you an idea. So when I talk about a co-branded landing page, this is what it would look like if you were to be a partner. So this is one of our partners, Tax Assist Advisors. You'll notice here we're identifying the fact that we've got all 3 credit bureaus involved here. A little bit of introduction as to why identity theft and credit monitoring is so critical. A little bit about us and who IDIQ is. Some statistics to kind of put some things in perspective for people who may be questionable whether or not it makes sense for them. But down here is the listing of the programs. So I mentioned the different programs can range anywhere from about $30 down to about $7. Here's what I identify here where it shows the 20% discount. And then there's a breakout here of what the various services are based on what makes the most sense for your client. There's also little links down here to embellish it. So a little bit more information, trying to give a comprehensive overview as to what this plan includes and why this might be important based on either something that's already happened or protecting something from happening again. Okay. And then scroll down a little further. Again, some basic information about what is identity theft protection, credit monitoring, trying to educate some comments that some of our clients have said. And again, some more information in terms of what that coverage includes. So we would build that for you at no cost. All we need to do is get a copy of your business logo, and we build that. Takes generally about 2 weeks to turn that around. We also have what we call a QR code postcard. So here's another partner. This is Hepner Associates. And in this case here, we would co-brand again. We would have a customized QR code for your business that would link you to essentially a web link that would take you back to this other screen here. The QR code, we've had some people who have created
Hey, Ross.
Yes.
Basically, somebody just asked, how comparable is this to LifeLock? They do some of the same things. So basically, with this one right here, because one of there's two things really here that we really would like to talk about, whether it's from basically the Grove and then basically with what Ross is offering here with IDIQ. Is one, we wish we would have had the course built so you guys could immediately go straight to the course. But the course is going to have a lot of really, specific learning. It's strap on your student. You're going to feel like a student in a good way, because this is something you actually want to learn. But we're going to give you real good examples and stuff like that to do in the Grove. Which, can you bring that up real quick, Russ? Do you mind bringing that up? And then we'll swing back around and we'll answer Janine's question.
Bring it up again. That the comparison they showed you before, or our outline.
We'll bring up the Grove real quick, and then we'll go to the outline.
So you say the Grove, your website, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If you could just go to the grove.thinkific.com. So just bring up the website and then go to the Grove. So if everybody goes out to the Grove, don't share your screen. Just bring up here.
Trying to go to the other screen here. There we go. Okay. So
go to the grove.thinkific.com. Oh yeah, Davida just put that in there. That's where people can basically go. But yeah, if you could just go in there real quick. So just go to the grove.thinkific.com. There you go. And when you come in here, what you're going to be able to do is come in and join any other class that you want to do. Just click started for free, view the courses. You can click on a course, sign up for any of the courses, and these are all free. We've got a lot of type of, OneNote, Microsoft, Google, QBO hacks from Alicia Katz Pollock, a lot of really, interesting stuff in here. This is where you're going to find when we get the course in here. This is where Russ and I are going to put the course for identity theft, and Russ, I'm really excited about, we'll show the outline of where we're basically going with this. And then when that course is in here, everybody that's in the webinar, we will send that out. And basically that right there is going to teach you the nuts and bolts of really everything that we're talking about here. And then what Russ is basically explaining with his company by giving us this great content to put in the Grove, we're going to give you multiple options on what you can basically do. His is one option of a direction that you guys can go to, help your clients with this. That is kind of like LifeLock. So long-winded way of kind of coming back around. But Russ, why do you basically, how is this compared to LifeLock and other stuff out there? Like with IDIQ compared to, some of the free versions, because like, for example, credit, I think on Capital One, I got a free, version versus what other stuff that's out there. How does this compare?
All right, that's actually slide 10. So I'm going to jump real quick, do a couple slides and get to it. So this is a list, and I won't go into more detail about how it might benefit you as a business owner. This is a listing of how this could benefit your clients. I'll just hold on for just a second for you a chance to look through that really, really quick. And the next one is a comparison to other offerings.
And then Tracy, is everything in the plans the same and works the same for Canadians? So, and then also, yes.
Good question. I don't know about Canada.
Okay. So we will find out about that, and then if there's any other Canadians in the group, just put yourself in the chat, and we will send something out to Tracy when we get an answer on that.
Great question. Okay. So the question was, okay, how does it compare to LifeLock? First of all, these are all great companies. So my intent here, I want to make sure I'm very clear, not to bang on them. They all provide a service, and whether it's IDIQ or somebody else, please make sure you're protected and your clients are protected. That's the bottom line. So some of the things that are different about us versus them, I don't know if everybody knows, but LifeLock is part of TransUnion. So here's just one example, and you can certainly see my screen. So while I'm talking here, you can look at some of the bullet points. We can discuss it in much detail as you like. One of the things that TransUnion is, it's a little different than IDIQ, is IDIQ has an agreement with all three of the bureaus, and that's in a real-time scenario. So here's how that is one differentiator. So I gave you the example of going to TSA and getting clear to the airport. So with TransUnion, that's a real-time alert. But oftentimes something will happen with Experian or Equifax where it may not trigger their bureau, meaning everyone talks about offering, the 3-bureau return, but unless they own it or they have a relationship with the other two, then it's not going to be real time. So what happens sometime in the night, the next day, within 24 hours, there's a batch process, and then you'll get an alert. So for example, if I'm going into a bank or something and I'm opening up an account, on average, if I'm trying to use the data for nefarious purposes, on average, it takes about 9 minutes to open up an account and basically do the damage. If you're not getting alert until the next day, then it may be too late or some of the damage may have been done. So the fact that we are the 3 bureaus, the other ones don't always have that. And again, I can kind of talk about that. So we talk about real time. That's one of the things that we're very proud of, is because we have individual agreements with all 3 bureaus. We have it in real time. These others are more of a batch process. And that's one of the major differentiators there. I will say, and I hope this doesn't sound wrong and inappropriate, but just as a perspective, one of the things we've done, and we're trying to really align ourselves as the specialists in the tax world, the tax vertical. So in addition to working with the Grove and Liscio, we're also the only provider that's doing identity theft protection and credit monitoring for the National Association of Enrolled Agents, National Society of Tax Professionals, and the National Center for Public Education Fellowship. So you've probably heard of many of those. Again, we've gone through some of the vetting, just like with Rob and Davida. So the idea is that we feel like we have a really good solution that kind of aligns closely with the tax world, and not only organizations like the Grove that work within members within that organization, but also being able to provide a solution so that you as a business owner, if it makes sense, could then provide these services to your clients. I hope I answered that properly. Any other questions that will follow up on that?
Well, yeah, and actually one point on that one. When we met in Vegas at the convention, the thing that I think initially drew your interest was the fact that we're trying to put out education for tax preparers. And you were really excited about, yes, I mean, everybody's selling a product. Everybody in this, thing, we're all selling a product. So either selling our firm or our services, something, right? That's what we do. But you were really, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that you want to do is make sure that they really have a lot of the pure, real education. And in this webinar, what we've done is we've tried to basically make you guys aware. Here's all the stuff that's basically out there. What don't you know? What could we basically do? But the real meat and greet and nitty gritty of that real education, building the course together. I think that's what kind of lit you up. And I don't know, and I think I'm speaking for both of us here. We're excited about this course that we're building. And can you bring that, because that's the thing, the course of the stuff that we're building. Can you bring that content? You want to bring that content up?
Yeah.
That outline?
Yes, I have that right here. So maybe I've got so many slides open. I have to, okay, there we go. So tell me when to scroll down. So
Yeah, no, yeah. So basically, yeah. So right in here, we're gonna, this is pretty much the layer of the detail of the content that this course is going to basically have. We're going to start off with an introduction, kind of talking about it, very similar to what Russ has done today. Then we're going to get into the credit reports. Really, how do you read them? What makes them up? What, just understanding, does, if you call up and do this, does it affect your score? What affects it? What doesn't affect it? Stuff like that. Go into the symptoms. How can you tell if you've been hit? What are some of the remedies? How can you basically fix that? So contacting the credit bureau. Well, that's great, but what do you do? And we're going to give you, like, for example, the ID theft document. Like, we'll give you handouts and examples that you can actually use when you contact these people. What should you say? Give me some example emails that I can actually use to just copy, paste, and replace. Preventative options. What can you basically do to prevent this? One of them being, IDIQ is going to help prevent this from happening. But what are some other things you can basically do? Russ and I are talking about, you can free the best, because really the best thing you can do is freeze your credit, right, Russ?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and then so it's great that you can, freezing your credits, the best thing you can do, but how do you actually go about doing that? Where do you even start to basically go and doing that? That's what this course will basically go into. It'll give you examples, it'll give you numbers, it'll give you websites that you can go to, so you can actually take this information and put it into action. Scroll down a little bit further. And then go to the next page. And then, we're going to have like the hyperlinks, the hyperlinks, everything like this. And then what can you basically do to set your kids up for success? So as they're in high school, as they're in college, what steps should you be doing to put them in the best position, so when they actually get out in the real world, they're not basically lagging behind? Because my daughter, hopefully my kids won't see this, but my daughter, who's the second one, she's doing well, better than the first. Sometimes we mess up with the first. So sorry, Andy. You're an experiment. I learned off of you. But then, not only, even if you don't have kids or your kids are past that, this is the type of stuff that we're going to be able to give you, that you can, and handouts and suggestions that you can do with your client. Because giving a tax return is the baseline. Everybody expects a tax return. You can get a refund, great, but most of it's, that's not really what we do. But if you can do something that's going to really help save somebody, or they come back a couple of years later and say, wow, you having my son having that great credit score, really, you just want a client for life. This type of stuff, this extra value added stuff, is really where we need to be focusing. Because if you can do stuff like that, when you go to raise your prices, they're not going to look elsewhere. They're not going to bat an eye, because you've given them so much value, way beyond anything that they've ever, expected. And then lastly, the last two pieces of the chapter that we'll do here is, one, how can you become a partner with IDIQ? And if you don't, that's okay too, because at the end of the day, we're trying to basically educate you. But if you do want to basically, come up through IDIQ, and let me kind of reiterate my understanding of it. So basically, they'll be able to come to a website, sign up through kind of underneath our umbrella. And once they've basically done that, they'll then be able to go in, offer a discount to their clients, and then they'll get a small residual off of that, right?
20%.
And they can, if they want to keep the residual, they can keep it themselves. Or if they want to give that savings, they can even pass that additional savings on to their client. That's an option too. Is that correct, Russ?
It is. We have kind of a range that we can deal with. So we have some that are saying, I really take a fiduciary situation or position with my clients. Therefore, I don't want to take any kind of a commission or revenue from that. So we can offer a deeper discount. So, we have a little bit of range, some people want to take a little.
Yeah, and I've seen both people. Because I think that works great, because then basically, whether or not, you want to basically create the commission, or just pass that on to them and then tell your clients, because that's what I did once. I did that once with another product, where I didn't keep the commission, because it really didn't matter. It didn't add up that much. And I said, hey, look, I forgave my commission, and I'm just passing it to you. And then that made the client go, oh, wow, thank you. Hey, wow, I saved you even more money. At the end, I built them on the back end. But every little piece of, hey, I'm not trying to sit there and do that. And then the last piece, scroll down a little bit more, the last chapter that we're going to put in here. And we skipped a couple chapters from 5 to 10 because there may be some more like neat education in between there. And then the last two pieces. So the first part of the course will be really identity theft protection and stuff like that. And then scroll back to, and then scroll back down to the bottom. We left a couple chapters for some new ideas that are going to come up, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom to the last chapter. Then how do you discuss this with your clients? Okay, so one of the things here is like, how do you bring this up? What questions do you ask? When you're talking with your clients, whether it's you during tax season, and it may not be during tax season, because you're so busy, we're just trying to get the tax returns done. But the other thing though is that the other thing would be is that maybe you do this in June. Maybe we do this in July. Maybe you have your administrative assistant who your clients may actually like. But I mean, I don't know about you, but my clients, I think, actually like my administrative assistant better than me. They like talking to her much better because she is much nicer, much more personable. But this is where I would see something that, when I was running my firm, I would probably have her call up, because identity theft affects us all. And I probably would have educated her a little bit and taken her through the course. So then she could talk plainly about it and just call up and say, hey, listen, this is an issue that we know is having. A couple of clients have been hit with it. Are you aware of it? Would you like any more information? Do you have kids that may need some help? If you do, we can send you some information. And then it's a quick phone call. You're touching your clients mid-year. You're offering them advice or additional services. It's not really costing you anything, okay? Because you're just filling blank time and you're getting that extra touch in. So to me, every time that you can reach out to a client and not give them bad news and help them out is a win. And I think that this, basically, what this basically offers, and if somebody's interested in getting signed up, we'll send you a link out there where you can get signed up for this. But this is something I want you guys thinking about during tax season. Keep it in the back of your mind. You don't have to dive deep into it, but maybe say, hey, would you want me to swing back around and collect those clients and swing back around?
So Rob, let me just piggyback what you said. So obviously you have more time in June and July when things are a little slower, but we've also found a lot of our partners have, I showed you that QR code postcard before and that link. So we would give you a link that you can embed on your website. The QR code points to your website as well. Oftentimes they'll print that out. They'll go to Staples or Office Max, have a stack of postcards on the desk, hand them. You got your phone, you want to take a picture. Some people have a laminated sheet. They're just having the clients take a picture real quick, or I make a postcard when they check out and pay their fees as they're leaving. The idea is they can sign up whenever they like, and that's all done behind the scenes. It's going through your website, but you as the business owner don't have to do anything. We give you what's called a partner portal, which shows you all the clients that have signed up and what program they signed up for. So that's all provided again at no cost. So the idea is, as you're having a conversation, if someone's interested at that time, they could do something as simple as just taking out the phone, taking a picture of the QR code, walk out the door and taking care of it. If you then want to follow up in the summer, we've got more time, you can do that, but it doesn't require any late action.
So it's like, so it can be set up where it's pretty much a done deal, like right away. So it's not going to slow me down during tax season.
Not at all. So
but then when I have got free time, then I can dig in deeper. So now it's just hey, here you go, get her going. No sweat off my back. And that's short term. So I'm able to provide something short term and not really affect my tax season. But then also set me up for something that said, hey, remember we talked about this, fill out and then dig in deeper in the summer when we've got more time. So it's really the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And I'll even go one step further. This may not apply to everybody, but we have a couple of our partners that are saying, we want to offer a premium service to our clients. They're adding, so I showed you kind of the 4 different programs. They were going to offer everybody that comes into their office and has their taxes done for an additional $50 a year. So they pay essentially at the time of doing the tax return. It's going to give them the basic program, the real-time identification, and it's just included at the time of checkout. So if you're doing your taxes with this, ABC tax firm, every one of their clients is going to get this, and they're just including a $50 charge for that for the whole year. So there's all kinds of programs, be it annualized, not quite as robust to more robust, basically needing how much help do you need, how many alerts do you want, how many credit reports do you want, how often do you want them to occur. So there's a lot of flexibility. That's why there's 4 programs, because not everyone's going to need the same level of service. So that's just another layer that's available if it makes sense for you and your situation.
Yeah, no, and that sounds, I mean, wow, there's a lot of different options. But that's basically the Carolyn basically mentioned that it sounds good, but she's busy and she's gonna have to review something before you sign up. I agree. I mean, nothing against Russ here, no matter what you do. I've always, as an accountant, whenever I've talked about somebody, I always give 2 or 3 different options and stuff like this. And I think Russ, you've even said that yourself too. It's like this is one option of things that you can do. We all basically have something to sell, but at the end of the day, the course that we're going to be building together, that's going to sit there, explain what this stuff is, put it in a format that you're going to first understand it. Once you've understand it, then you're able to communicate it to your clients, give you something that you can educate your clients, because at the end of the day, what we need to be doing with our clients is just not providing a tax return. We need to be really their financial advisor and their protector, and that's actually kind of a cool idea. I mean, could you imagine that's an interesting marketing. That's an interesting marketing tool where that firm did this for every one of their clients and said, look, just tacked it on. They could almost, for that pricing, they don't even put a charge in there. They just kind of jack their prices up $100 across the board, bury the cost in that, and then say, hey, look, we're doing this for you because we care about your safety.
Yeah.
Just in your annual increase of your price. And the more stuff like that you do, the better you are, because instead of just being a shop that does nothing but tax returns, if you can really start to go in there and get, become this octopus of benefits that you're helping them in so many different areas than just a tax return, if they're never going to complain about the price increases. And 2, if they go somewhere else, if you've offered them 6 things and the next person offers them 1, well, it's going to be a lot easier to keep your clients.
Sure. So I know we're almost out of time, so I want to show one other thing. One of the questions was, well, how does this compare to LifeLock? This is another differentiator that might be helpful. So I'm going to show you, if I've logged in, this is an example of a screen. So this is actually an employee of IDIQ. We changed the name, of course. But if I log in, I have my information, I identify who I am, and now I want to look at my own individual unique screen. This is what they're going to see. So one of the things that's different, I mentioned the real time for the 3 bureaus. We also present them side by side, all 3. Most other applications are not going to show you all 3 credit scores. And why this is important, understand that if I'm just reporting to TransUnion, or let's say the bank or the credit card or the car loan or whatever, just reports to or checks on Equifax, I'm showing a 553, right? Well, but if I'm going to TransUnion, because not everybody uses all 3. So in terms of, again, managing it, this is just an example on the credit score side. There's all kinds of tools. I won't click on any one of those unless somebody jumps in and says, hey, go back to that. I'm going to go through it really slowly, but here are all kinds of different tools. You can build your score. You can do simulators. Here's all kinds of information on how to do your credit monitoring, how to protect your identity, how to your monitoring of your score. It's going to give you all kinds of detail as to what makes up your credit report, so you can verify and say, wait a minute, that's not right. Again, another check, or wait a minute, something that I did isn't included. I paid that loan off. I want to get credit for the fact that I had a 5-year car loan, but I paid it off in 2 years or 3 years or whatever the case may be. Over time, it's going to show you your credit score. And again, all kinds of additional information here and detail behind it. We could spend another hour just on this page alone. I don't want to turn this into a IDIQ sales situation. It's really more about the need for protection, but these are the kind of tools that would be available at your disposal if it made sense. But as I said, and I'll circle back again, whether IDIQ is the right part or not, that's fine. Rob and I get excited because we see a need, and it breaks my heart when I see people and hear stories of how they've been impacted by identity theft. If not with us, then someplace else. That's fine. It's more important it's protection. But if we can be of help and we can be a partner, would love to do that. But if not, honestly, God bless and good to you going forward. Not a problem at all. You can still use the Grove and not have anything to do with IDIQ. Happy to share that information with you.
And actually somebody just made a comment that she's an admin and she likes to take stuff back to the partners. And to me, you know, I think it's Janine, my eyesight's going. Jeannie, is it Jeannie? It may be Jeannie, and my eyesight's going. I hate getting old. But this is where, yes, Jeannie. Basically, this is where I think she can now go in, even though she's admin. This is something that she could own. Jeannie, this is something that I think you could own, make it your own, and help generate revenue for the firm. And to me, if you can do that, that is, yeah, this is exactly what it's all about, is helping our clients no matter which way it is, and really, you know, being able to find revenue where there is none, but ultimately at the end of the day, better serve our clients. And I think this is something that every one of our clients needs to know about. This is something that every one of our clients can benefit from. And this is basically an introduction to what we're basically doing here. Russ, thank you very much for setting the stage, for leading us to basically where the course is going to go, where they're going to have all the details. We'll be sending out emails with that. And if anybody's interested in learning more about IDIQ, please contact Russ here at this thing right here. He can basically get you set up. If you want to wait for the course, do that. But at the end of the day, it sounded like you could just get up and running and just do it in the middle of tax season, and then really aggressively go after it. You know, you can be reactive during tax season without spending any time, and then really focus on being proactive. And inside the course, we're going to basically help you, give you the tool set and the checklists and the infrastructure to help you make this a proactive piece of your practice. Okay, anything else for us?
No, I'll just say, so obviously that's my contact information. I'm happy to have individual conversations. We should have the link within the Liscio and the Grove area in terms of this information, as well as what we use the term partner affiliate link. So think of yourself as being a partner affiliate with Liscio. That should be up and available probably early next week. And then the course will be coming out later, and Rob and David will be providing information on that. But we're excited, and thank you so very much for your time and your attention and great questions. And good luck as tax season approaches. Hope everything goes well for you. You do a very important service.
Yep, and everybody have a happy holiday, and talk to you next time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.